This is From Courtroom to Carline, the podcast where we discuss life as a lawyer and a parent.
I'm Rick.
And I'm Jenna.
Your host and partners both in the courtroom and in parenting.
Join us as we navigate the fascinating worlds of life as a parent and a lawyer. Get ready for a roller coaster ride where law meets love and where the gavel meets the car line.
So welcome to another episode from Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. Today we have John Mulvihill on the show. Thank you for being on the show, John.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So a little bit about John. He is an attorney. He's been practicing law for, 15, 20 years now?
I've been licensed since 2004, so it'll be 20 years in August. I guess September is when I got the word that I passed the bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're a part of Thacker and Mulvihill, a personal injury law firm. Well, first let me ask you, when did you first become partner? How did that law firm start?
Yeah, so kind of my history is I was a prosecutor for 3 years here in Pinellas County when I left law school. Really like 3 years and a few months. I then started doing personal injury law immediately when I left the state attorney's office. I worked at two rather large advertising firms in the area, kind of cut my teeth for about 5 years. And then I left and opened the personal injury department at my old law firm, kind of built that practice, the personal injury department practice from the ground up, was there 10 years, and then had an amicable separation with my old firm. They're still friends of mine, but we kind of split apart, and I partnered up with my current partner, Greg Thacker, almost 3.5 years ago now. So it was a nice match. Greg and I have been good friends for going on like 17 years because we were both state attorneys together. I was actually when he was an intern at the state attorney's office, I was his LTA or lead trial attorney. So that's how we started to get to know each other.
What made you decide to transition from criminal to personal injury?
Part was the student loans. You know, I always had an interest in personal injury, but I really like doing criminal law. I mean, let's get real. Criminal law is the most entertaining of the law. You get the best stories, but part of it was that. And I just always had an interest in, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I really do like helping people, and you get the best of both worlds. You can make a more lucrative living, and you also get to actually help people as well while doing what you're doing. So
what gave you the confidence to start your own firm and partner with somebody rather than working, under somebody else?
Part of it was just circumstances, but I mean, I also I know this is also kind of a cliche, but I think my parents gave me the confidence. It's way back to just take risks and be able to say, hey, no matter what happens, you've got this. You're going to land on your feet no matter what happens. So it's a little bit of that, and a little bit of, I wanted to have a little bit more of ownership in it. And I kind of had run my own firm at Corliss Barfield at my old law firm. I mean, I was employed by them, but my pay structure was also based on based on what I brought into the firm. So that concern of not having the actual regular daily paycheck, let's say from the government or a big law firm, I'd kind of gradually worked into being comfortable knowing that I can make a living off of what I produce and what I bring in.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you were a prosecutor for 3 years and a couple of days. So I got to ask about the 3-year commitment. Was that a big part of the office when you first started?
Yeah, they had. I don't know if it's still a thing, but when I was there, it was this unwritten rule, I guess, a 3-year commitment. Obviously, I think everybody knows it's probably not legal, but it was just kind of an unwritten rule of hey, you're supposed to stay here 3 years. But there are plenty of people that left prior to 3 years when I was there. And my understanding was just, I don't even want to say that. It's my guess, I shouldn't say understanding, was that the 3-year rule was if you left prior to 3 years and you wanted to come back one day, you're probably not going to be a candidate to work there anymore. But I mean, I'm kind of a man of my word. I told them, they asked me about it, they told me about it, and I'm not going to, unless there was some very legitimate reason for it, I was going to stay there 3 years. And I wanted to get the experience there too. I mean, ultimately, as you guys know, being a prosecutor or a public defender, there's nowhere better to cut your teeth as a litigator than there, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously we both started at the public defender's office, and I got to try so many cases that, I wouldn't get to try if I was just starting on my own. And briefly going back to the law school student debt, I stayed at the public defender's office for 10 years because I got my loans forgiven. So once that happened, that was my catalyst to be like, okay, I can finally branch off, join Rick, do Fletcher and Fletcher, because I didn't have the student loans weighing me down.
Yeah, they're handcuffed. I mean,
Yes.
they really are. My wife's an attorney too, and she has full student loans as well. And that came into, I think I'd already left the state attorney's office when that was passed. If you do 10 years in the public sector, they'll forgive it's only your federal loans, right? They don't forgive your private loans. Yeah. And it's not like you're forgiving them, you're making payments on them while you're there. So it's not I think there's probably a misconception that it's like free. It's not free. Like, not only are you doing public service and making probably half of what you can make in the private sector, but you're also still paying on your loans while you're doing it for those 10 years.
Yeah, no, they need to restructure how student loans are, but that's for
that's for another. Yeah,
yeah.
No, I agree. Like the debt you have. Look, I wouldn't change a thing, but it also is very the path my life might have taken without student loans might have been completely different, at least financially. Maybe not,
yes.
From another standpoint, but at least financially, it would have been a lot easier to not have student loan debt coming out of law school.
Absolutely.
You mentioned your wife. Was she a public defender here in Pinellas County?
She was a PD for, I think, 5.5 years. So, because I've been at the state attorney's office, I think a year when she graduated, 1.5 years, because she was about a little over a year behind me in law school. We met in law school, and she went to the PD's office when I was at the state attorney's office. But I was actually in the PD clinic when I was in law school, yeah. So I knew all the PDs very well. And the very first trial I ever did was when I was an intern at the PD's office. Yeah. So with Barry Cobb, which I know you guys know.
Yes, love Barry. Yeah.
Oh, Barry's wonderful. Yeah, he's awesome.
So how is it being married to another attorney who's obviously, been a litigator?
Yeah. I love it. I can't imagine not being married to another attorney, because it's really nice when you're, let's say, stressed about something or you have something you're trying to work through, being able to just talk to them and not have to recreate the entire concept for them. You can kind of just dive headlong into the legal issues with them and be able to talk about it. And also, they just understand some of the stress that you might be going through at the time. So if I've got a lot on my plate or vice versa, there's not a lot that needs to be said. It's just hey, go do what you need to do. I'll take care of it, or vice versa, So it's great. I love it. I love my wife regardless. If she wasn't an attorney, it wouldn't matter, but it makes it even better, I think.
I can definitely relate to that. When Rick and I knew that we were going to do Fletcher and Fletcher, we'd have people ask, you guys are going to work together? And it's yes. We know how we are. We know how the cases are. It's easy for us to have those conversations about our workday and what's going on. It's just good to have somebody to relate to that knows exactly what is going on.
Yeah, well, and everybody thinks, because my wife was a PD when I was a prosecutor, and now she does insurance defense, and I do plaintiff's personal injury work. But even though we work on opposite sides of the quote unquote aisle, our ideals and the way we practice law are very similar. So even though, and I think a lot of people that don't do law don't understand that yeah, it's an adversarial job, but you still can have, I guess in the case of a spouse, a loving, open, and wonderful relationship, even though you do opposite areas of the law, and have really great friends too. Some of my best friends are public defenders I tried cases against when I was a prosecutor, or, people that I've worked against in the civil sector, and they did defense work and I did plaintiff's work, and we still get along really well.
Absolutely. And I think too, Rick and I have both, gotten along well with prosecutors and just had that interaction with them. And it's good to see a familiar face in the courtroom, even if they are technically on the other side, but it's good to just have those relationships. When you guys are all working together, we all work together, but we all have home lives as well.
Yeah. And you can talk to them honestly and basically give them no BS, an unvarnished version of what's going on in your case, or they can to you, and they're not going to try and weasel a way to use that against you or something like that. Having that relationship with someone on the other side is great, because you can still, what you need to fight about, and what you don't need to fight about. And when you waste all this time fighting about things that you don't really need to fight about, it's counterproductive. Let's get real. It's silly. Yeah.
The one thing I like about being married to a lawyer, especially one that, I work with in criminal defense, is that you never have to worry about them not being interested in your day. I see it all the time with couples that, they do separate jobs. Either the husband or the wife comes home from work and, they want to talk about their day, what happened at work. And, sometimes, the other half can't relate or doesn't want to hear it. And then over time, that becomes, a stress on the relationship. So the one thing I'm very fortunate about is that, when I get home or when we get home, if we carpool, she's always got an interest in what, my day was like and what I did in court. And so I'm very thankful for that.
It's funny you say that because like one of the big negatives since COVID, and I think there's been a lot of wonderful things that have happened to the legal profession as a result of COVID. COVID sucked, but the legal profession was forced to modernize in a lot of ways. But the one thing that my wife and I talk about that we missed the most is we were in the car a lot more, and we used to have time where we could talk and talk about our day and like what was going on. And like we enjoyed, like you said, Rick, like we actually enjoyed like hearing like, tell me about your deposition, what happened in it, or like, and we're not legal nerds, but sometimes it's like, especially if you had something really like, even if it wasn't legally interesting, just a silly, good story, I'm like, tell me about it. I want to hear it. I want to hear what this person had to say or what they did or something like that. I mean, you love that.
Well, and you have 2 young kids. We have 3. So like trying to talk after work when they're home, it's hard. It's they're yelling and, we can't have a conversation. So yes, it's that time in the car that you get to talk to your spouse and, relate to those issues without the kids.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like, I mean, we make time for it now. We try to, at least. Like, but there are times where it's like Thursday, for like Athena and I are going out to dinner tonight. We have plans to go out to dinner, and it's going to be one of those weeks where like I feel like we haven't really talked about anything other than like, which is great. We love talking about the kids, and that'll end up we'll talk about ourselves for like 15 minutes, and then we'll just end up talking about the kids probably the rest of the time we're out tonight. But yeah, it's nice. And I think you have to work at it and make time sometimes when you have kids to talk with each other and like not just be like, hey, how'd your day go? But there are times where we sit down. We make this joke where if we're both super busy and there's a lot going on with the kids, there's days where I'm like, I feel like we're ships passing in the night right now. Like we need to like make time to like sit down, talk, like just hang out. Just hang out. Yeah.
It's great that you're doing date night. We obviously try to do date night sometimes, but what else do you do to make time with your spouse, and also having time with your kids and just really all of family life?
Yeah, well, as far as with my spouse, we make time we try to have a regular date night. We try to do it at least 2 to 3 times a month. But we also, after the kids go to bed, a lot of times we'll try to make time to sit down and chat. And I also will push on her if we're both working from home. I'll be like, hey, what are you doing? Let's go grab a cup of coffee. Or let's go grab lunch real quick, or let's like sit at the table and eat lunch together, just because even if it's only 15, 20 minutes, it's just time to like just be with each other and have time and talk. And, we try to sometimes, we're really bad about trying to find TV shows to watch, but we'll try and find something to watch together. And it's not that we don't agree on stuff to watch. It's just we don't watch a lot of TV. And like when we get down to sit down to watch TV, it's more time about, there's so much now. It's like we don't know what to pick and we don't end up watching it. So really, it's just kind of, it's not scheduling time because we don't like write in our schedule what we need, but it's just making time, like being aware of the fact that like, like we have potentially some time to see each other and spend some time together. Like, let's do it.
Rick and I, obviously we go to court, but we'll try to, if we're home, say, okay, we have this break, let's go for a walk. I mean, we still have our phones because if it, rings, having our own phone, there's always, someone calling, but we try to make that time where we get to go out and make sure that we're also building our relationship and keeping that strong connection between us.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So I also think it's important, though, to make time for yourself, too. Like, in a weird way, like Athena and I both work really hard at making sure that we're there for each other to give the other one time to go do something that they want to do. Like we both are it's a stress relief and it's also a health thing, but we both like to exercise a lot. So like we are very conscious of each other's time and always making time for each other. Like, hey, like I've got the kids or I've got this or I've got that, like go do what you need to do. Or if you want to go, even if it's not exercise, even if it's just self-care, like, you want to go get your hair cut, meaning me, or you want to go get your nails done, or you want to go get a massage, or whatever it is, like, go do it. Like, go do it. I've got this, or she's got this, and, like, don't worry. Like, there's nothing wrong, because I do think, like, if you take care of yourself as well, you're a better parent, you're a better lawyer, you're a better spouse, all of those things.
One of the things that you told me that you do is you swim in the morning.
I do swim a lot, yeah.
And that you try to not schedule anything work-related before 10 o'clock.
I do, yeah. Everyone that I work with usually knows, like, I do it not before 10 because I like to do two things. Sometimes I'll wake up, I'll bust out a few things that I need to get done or that have been like gnawing at the back of my mind. I'm like, let's get that pumped out and done. But I also want to spend some time with the kids in the morning and, be with them. And then when they're off to school, it still leaves me enough time to get to the pool or go work out or whatever it is. And that's kind of my time. And it has so many residual benefits. One, it's a huge stress relief, like, whether it's going for a swim or exercise, lifting weights or whatever it is, like you have all this. I mean, I feel like you guys know, you're lawyers, you have like 1,000 things running through your head at once. And the first, let's say I do a 30-minute swim, and the first 10 minutes is just like constant, mind's running. But by the end, you're exerting yourself. It's almost meditative. You get into this position where it's like, now all I'm thinking about is just getting to the other end of the pool. And it's very therapeutic. And it's also a huge health benefit as well on top of it. I mean, I like to joke with my wife all the time, but the goal is to be healthy and be fit. But the secondary goal is to just get myself to a position where the only thing I'm thinking about is basically the next breath or the next stroke or the next rap, where I'm just completely present. And I know that's that's kind of a thing people talk about, it being present, but it forces you to be completely present and only focusing on like what's going on at that very moment. And like, I would say I'm a little bit addicted to it because it's like such a huge like stress relief. I mean, I leave the pool and it's just like, I'm ready to like tackle the rest of the day.
We try to teach our kids meditation and affirmations, obviously not as, long of a time, but I wish that I, grew up with those insights and the benefits of meditation and the benefits of clearing your mind and just being, wholly present. So that's great that, you take that time to do that for yourself.
Meditation. I meditate too. I shouldn't say every day, but I try every day at the end of the day. People are like, well, how do you do it? I'm like, well, if I know my day needs to end at 6, let's say my child care is, or I have to pick the kids up at 6, I don't end my day at 6. I consciously say I have to end my day at 5:45. And I go and even if I'm at my office, I've even pulled my car off into a safe parking lot and done it in my car, I'll meditate for 10 minutes. And it's just a really great way to kind of have a clean break from the work day to then the home day and being with my kids and being with my wife and family time. It doesn't mean that the work thoughts go away and I'm not thinking about work maybe, but it's also it's just a way of clearing your mind, being present, and then also almost like a little bit of a reset before the as some of my friends say, your second job starts, which I don't think of it as a second job. I love being around my kids. It's so amazing.
Yes. What is one tip that you would give to, business owners or professionals that, have young kids that are raising kids? What would you tell them?
Make time I think make time to take care of yourself, because I think you're instilling, and that sounds selfish, but it's not. I believe that when you show your children a good example of someone that's well-rounded and you're able to take care of yourself, but also be successful in your job and be productive in your job, you're setting a good example for them. Because, look, you can't have everything you have if you don't have a job and an income. Everything's not mutually exclusive. If I focus 100% of my energy all the time on my kids, my business is going to fail. If I focus 100% of my energy and thoughts on my business, my family's going to fail. Or at least I'm not going to give the love and attention to my family that they need and they should have. So I think, and then if I don't take care of myself, they're both going to fail. I mean, because if you lose ability to take care of yourself and your mental health is a mess, or your physical body's a mess, and you're having, you have type 2 diabetes, or you have high blood pressure, or a lot of the other stress-related things that you see a lot of lawyers do, or they self-medicate through, alcohol or whatever else it is, you're taking away from the whole, the totality. And I look at it all as your life is one big thing. And if one of them's out of balance, they're all going to fall out of balance. So I think the hardest one is to take care of yourself. Like giving up on yourself is the easiest because I feel like you love your family more than you love yourself. And, your job can get so stressful sometimes. You're like, well, if I just focus all my energy on this, my stress level is going to go down. But I think but then everything's getting out of balance, which I think just adds stress to it. So I guess to get back to it, I think it's to really focus on yourself because that's the easiest to neglect, and that'll help keep yourself in balance.
And definitely a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah, and just make the time. I mean, look, you don't want to be like completely self-absorbed, then you're going to fall out of whack too. But you got to make the time. Like you have to just consciously, I feel like as lawyers sometimes we have that stress of like, if I don't do this right now, and we have not only self-imposed deadlines, but we have legit legal deadlines we have to comply with. But sometimes you have to just you have these self-imposed deadlines. You're like, well, I need to get this done by the end of the day or by the end of the week. Sometimes it's okay to just be like, you know what? I'm going to get to that tomorrow and I'm going to take the time to go do X, Y, Z. And when I say self-care, it's not just going to exercise or going to do something specific for yourself. Self-care for me sometimes is going to spend time with my kids, like hopping in the pool with them or going to the park with them or taking them to the arcade or just hanging out and, going to pick, like on Fridays, I try to take every Friday, I try to end my day at 2 so I can absolutely make sure I'm there to go pick them up, not have to do any aftercare, and then go and spend a Friday afternoon with them. And they love it. Like it's become a tradition now and they absolutely love it and they cherish it. So that was a bit of a rambling answer, but that's kind of, I guess, care for yourself and keep everything in balance.
I love it. So, John, we do an episode or a segment, I should say, on our podcast of what happened to Florida Man. So I'm going to pull up a Florida Man story. Okay. You can be our prosecutor take on the case, and we'll take the side of the defense.
Okay. Gonna bring me back. I gotta get the cobwebs out of my brain.
This one, the headline is Florida Man robs store dressed as Spider-Man. So the date of offense was January 2nd, 2019. So right after the new year. He essentially went to a Winn-Dixie. You can see him there's a video of it. He's trying to break in the Winn-Dixie alcohol store. Goes back to his car, gets a Spider-Man mask, reapproaches the store, breaks in, and steals alcohol and Newport cigarettes.
Oh, solid plan. So he's like, wait a minute, they might have video cameras, so let me just go get the mask real quick.
So charged with 5 counts. First count is burglary with a mask, so second-degree felony. I didn't know that a mask was an enhancement, but I'm sure...
I didn't either. Yeah, I did not.
It's an enhancement. He also had a grand theft with a mask, a grand theft motor vehicle, because the car that the mask was in was stolen, and then also a grand theft. So he ended up pleading about 2 years later in 2022. He got 8 years prison, followed by 5 months of probation. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think made him plea out to 8 years? Was it priors, the facts? What are your thoughts?
I'm guessing it's priors. He sounds like a career criminal. I mean, if he's stealing a car, I bet you that wasn't even his own Spider-Man mask. Like, it just happened to be in the car. So I'm guessing he probably had I'm guessing he probably scored like 15 years and he got 8.
He did have criminal history dating back from 1996. And his score sheet, he was scoring 64 months. So he actually got over the score sheet. So
did he roll the dice and go to trial?
He pled. He ended up pleading, reached a negotiation. Probably didn't want to face the 60 plus years that could have happened to him. But yeah, that was our Florida man. So.
I can't imagine he was a first-time offender. Nobody's like, I'm going to go steal their first offense is usually not, I'm going to go steal a car, rob a liquor store. That you work up to that.
Definitely hear that. But
as a juror, the thing that would probably upset me the most is that, you gave Spider-Man a bad name. Yeah. Not only are you
that's true.
Committing a burglary, but you're stealing alcohol and Newport cigarettes. That's not how Spider-Man rolls,
No, yeah.
Come on, that's Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's good to here.
John, we loved having you on. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, so my law firm is thackermulvihill.com, or just Google Thacker and Mulvihill and it'll come up. Ultimately, I should probably spell it because my last name's a bit of a mouthful, but Thacker's Thacker. Mulvihill is MULV like Victor, IHILL. So just Google us. And if anyone has any legal issues, I can't say like Rick is one of my go-to for criminal law. And obviously if you need personal injury help, like we're here to help. Like we're not an advertising firm. Like we get all our business from prior happy clients. So hopefully if you need help, give us a call.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on our podcast from Courtroom to Carline. We appreciated having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.